their measures being none other than the commendable precedents and examples of zealous and tender-hearted Christians who have done the like, and our national and solemn covenants lying with their binding force indispensable upon all of us, and obliging us to endeavor all that is there declared, as being bound forever to have common friends and foes with our covenanted reformation, to all which they declare and avouch their resolved adherence, and their own former declarations, disowning their allegiance to and authority of a man who had, by law itself, forfeited all authority. By this intolerable tyranny, perjury, and perfidious breach of trust, reposed and devolved upon him by covenant, by his overturning all the fundamental constitutions of the government, perverting, inverting, and everting all laws, all liberties, all privileges of church and state, all establishments of our covenanted work of reformation, all securities of our life and enjoyments whatsoever, usurping to himself an absolute tyrannical civil supremacy, inconsistent with the safety or freedom of the people, and a monstrous, blasphemous ecclesiastical supremacy, upon which considerations to endeavor to make good their freedom and emancipation from that yoke which they had cast off, they behoved to resolve upon defensive resistance against him and his bloody emissaries, which war being declared before, they only in this declaration testified their unanimous approbation of, adherence to, and resolutions for prosecuting the same against him and his accomplices, such as lay out themselves to promove his wicked and hellish designs, by which war they do not mean a formed, stated, and declared insurrection with hostile force, to break the peace of the nation and involve all in blood, but a resolved, avowed, constant opposition to the murdering violence, injustice, oppression, and persecution of this wicked faction, now raging rather than reigning, who have dreaded and still prosecute a declared war against Christ, bearing down his work and interest in the land, quote, and a constant endeavor in opposition to them, to pursue the ends of our covenants, and standing to the defense of the glorious work of reformation and their own lives, and in the defense thereof, to maintain the cause and interest of Christ against his enemies, and to hold up the standard of our Lord Jesus Christ, meaning the gospel and the word of our testimony. Whereunto they looked upon themselves as bound and obliged by their holy covenants, being therein dedicated to the Lord in their persons, lives, liberties, and fortunes, for defending and promoving this glorious work of reformation, notwithstanding all his opposition, that is, or may be made thereunto, and sworn against all neutrality and indifferency in the Lord's matters, whereunto they beseech, invite, and obtest all them who wish well to Zion, to a concurrence and concerting the same cause and quarrel, unquote. In maintaining of which opposition against such wicked enemies, because they were restlessly pursued and hunted and murdered wherever they were found, neither could find any harbor or hiding place in any corner of the country for searchers, informers, and instigators who still stirred up the country to raise the hue and cry after them, and caused them to be delivered up, and delated them to the courts of their murdering enemies, whereby much innocent blood was shed. Therefore, to stop their career of violence and deter them from such courses, they found it necessary to threaten them with more active and vigorous opposition, and that they might expect to be treated as they deserved. Wherein they are far from owning assassinating principles or practicing assassinations, for they give only open and plain warning and advertisement to the world of their necessitated endeavors to defend themselves and prevent the murder of their brethren, and can no way be charged with asserting it lawful to kill all employed in the king's service in church, state, army, or country, as the proclamation inviporously, invective, calumny, misrepresents the declaration, but on the contrary do jointly and unanimously declare, quote, they detest and abhor that hellish principle of killing such as differ in judgment from them, and they are firmly and really purposed not to injure or offend any whomsoever, but such as are guilty directly of or accessory to the murder of their brethren, unquote. Whom yet they mind not to assassinate or kill tumultuarily, but to prosecute them with all legal formalities, that justice in their capacity and the time's disorder and distracted condition will allow, expressly declaring, quote, that they abhor, condemn, and discharge all personal attempts upon any pretext whatsoever, without previous deliberations, common consent, certain probation of sufficient witnesses, or the guilty person's confession, unquote. Neither could it ever be supposed that they threaten all employed in the king's service with this sort of handling, but some select and expressly distinguished kind of notorious villains, men of death and blood, openly avowing and vaunting of their murders. And these they distinguished into several classes, according to the respective aggravations of their wickedness. In the first, quote, They place those that murder by command, under pretext of an usurped authority, as counselors, justiciary, and officers of their forces or bands of robbers, and not all, nor any of these neither, but the cruel and bloody." Unquote. In the second class, they threaten such as are actually in arms against them of an inferior rank, and such gentlemen and bishops and curates as do professedly and willingly serve them to accomplish and effectuate their murders, by obeying their commands, making search for these poor men, delivering them up, instigating, informing, and witnessing against, and hunting after them, and not all these neither, but such as cruelly prosecute that service, as to the effusion of their blood. Neither do they threaten all equally, nor any of them peremptorily, quote, "but that continuing after the publication of this their declaration, obstinately and habitually in these courses, plainly declaring that they intend no hurt to them, as they would hold up their hand, they would repute them as enemies to God and the Reformation, and punish them as such, according to their power and the degree of their offense, withal leaving room for civil and ecclesiastical satisfaction before lawful and settled judicatories, for the offenses of such persons as their power may not reach," etc. Unquote. And as unwilling to be necessitated to such severe courses, and earnestly desirous to be prevented, they admonish them with sorrow and seriousness of the sin and hazard, of their wicked courses, and protest that only necessity of self-preservation and zeal to religion, lest it should be totally rooted out by their insolency, did drive them to this threatening declaration, and not because they were acted by any sinful spirit of revenge. This is all that is contained in that declaration. And if there be anything here so odious and execrable, to be so solemnly abjured, renounced, and abhorred in the presence of God, for the pleasure of, and in obedience of, the will of his and our enemies, let all unbiased considerers impartially weigh, or any awakened conscience speak, and I doubt not but the swearing and subscribing this oath will be cast and condemned. I shall say nothing of the necessity or conveniency or expediency or formality of this declaration, but the lawfulness of the matter, complexly taken, is so undeniable that it cannot be renounced without condemning many very material principles of our Reformation. Only success and incapacity is wanting to justify the manner. Whole procedure, formality, and all the circumstances of the business, if either the declarers themselves or any other empowered with strength and countenanced with success to make good the undertaking, had issued out such a declaration in the same terms, and had prevailed and prospered in the project, many that have now abjured it would approve and applaud it. But passing these things that are intrinsic to the consideration in hand, it is the matter that they required to be abjured and condemned. It is that the enemies quarreled at, and not the inexpediency or informalities of it. And it must be taken as they propound it, and abjured and renounced by oath as they represent it. And therefore the iniquity of this subscription will appear to be great in two respects. First, in denying the truth. Secondly, in subscribing to and swearing a lie. First, they that have taken the oath have denied and renounced the matter of that declaration, which is truth and duty, and is a testimony to the cause of Christ, as it is founded upon former, among us uncontroverted, precedents and principles of defensive wars, disowning tyranny, and repressing the insolency of tyrants and their accomplices. The whole matter being reducible to these 2 points, declaring a resolved endeavor of breaking the tyrant's yoke from off our neck, thereby asserting our own and the posterity's liberty and freedom from his insupportable and entailed slavery, and a just threatening to curb and restrain the insolency of murderers, to bring them to condign punishment, whereof as the first is no ways repugnant, but very consonant to the 3rd article, so the second is the very duty obliged unto in the 4th article of our solemn league and covenant. But all this they have denied by taking that oath. And second, by taking that oath they have sworn and subscribed to a lie, taking it as they represent it, abjuring it in so far as it declares, etc., and asserts it is lawful to kill all employed in the service of the king, in church, state, army, or country, which is a manifest lie, for it asserts no such thing. Neither will any other sense be put upon the words, in so far as salve the matter. For as thereby the takers of the oath shall deal deceitfully, in frustrating the ends of the oath, and the design of the tenders thereof, and to take an oath in so far will not satisfy, as Vodius judgeth, De Pol, Ecclesiastic, page 213, so let them be taken which way they can, either for so much, or even as, or providing it is either a denying the truth or subscribing a lie, and consequently these poor people suffered for righteousness that refused it.